Hi guys, so if you're watching this, this means that you just recently got extensions, perhaps you're thinking about extensions. I'm here to tell you all the things about what maintenance kind of looks like, how to take care of them at home properly, and just to make them last as long as possible and keep them feeling as good and looking as good for pretty much just as long as you can. So let's hop right on in. So first off, with any type of extensions that you have, you want to make sure that you are brushing and washing very, very nicely. The more aggressive you're washing, the more aggressive you're brushing, the more often that's going to lead to snagged corners or just kind of ripping your extensions out, and that over an extended period of time could cause some damage. So you want to make sure that you are doing that to the best of your abilities in the nicest way possible. So for example, my girl, we have one row of sewn in extensions in her. So when the extensions are sewn in, there's beads that are placed in here beforehand, and then you have your stitching put in. And so honestly, with all of that stuff that's right in here, it's really tough to like force your fingers through that. Honestly, you really can't. So when you're washing the hair, you want to make sure that you are not trying to force your fingers through the top of the weft. Once again, tough to do so, don't try. Also, when you're brushing the hair, you want to kind of feel where your beads and your row starts and kind of place your brush like directly below that so you can brush through. Brushing the top of your hair you can do just like normal, but when you're around your extensions, you want to be very, very mindful of where they start and stop, just so you're not pulling your corner. Also, if you are going in and you're round brushing, you do not want to go in and like scoop right where your extensions start. That's going to cause your corner to lift. So if you are round brushing, grab a round brush. You more so want to take this frontal hair forward and round brush it this way or round brush it back. You don't necessarily want to be doing this with all of your corners. That will cause lifting. So the more you can avoid that, the better. Also, when you are washing your hair, you can wash the rest of your hair like normal, but when it comes to actually washing your extensions, it's best to put one finger below, one finger on top, just like so, and just massage in a circular motion. That's gonna get your weft clean all the way to the top, and then you won't have to worry about accidentally snagging something. If you do have multiple rows and you're new to extensions, what I recommend doing is sectioning off, like if I had 2 rows, I would section off like this whole row of extensions and what is above it, and I would clip this up, and then I would wash the hair below it, rinse it, shampoo it, then take this hair down and shampoo that. Sometimes it's a little easier to wash it in sections than it is to tackle the whole thing all at once. Also, what you can do with extensions is you can do what I call a mini wash. This works especially well if you have a removable shower head in your shower that you can take down, or if you have a kitchen sink that you can kind of remove the nozzle either. You can just take the hair that's directly kind of above your extensions, you can clip this away, and then you can just lean your head over and you can wash this hair above it. So then it kind of looks like you washed everything, but it's not taking quite as much time. So that's a great alternative, especially if you want to start going longer between washes and you're not quite there yet. Especially with the extensions, you can kind of, trick the system a little bit more. Also, when you're washing your hair, you want to be very mindful of the products you're using, because that's really going to either prolong or cut the life of your extensions drastically. So what I always recommend is using a good professional grade moisturizing products are going to be your best friend. So what I recommend if you have an oily scalp is using more of like a volumizing shampoo, but always pairing a moisturizing conditioner with that, because you're always going to be moisturizing pretty much from like your ears down. So that's what's going to kind of keep your hair and the extensions feeling like the most similar texture, and also keep your extensions feeling as good for as long as possible. One thing I always like to do to ensure that I can get my hair, as well as extension girlies, their hair to go a little bit longer between washes, is to double shampoo. So you can use 2 different shampoos if you'd like, or you can use the same one twice, but I find it's best to shampoo twice. That's gonna get everything really clean, so it's gonna let you go longer than if you just shampooed once. So if your hair kind of struggles and you get oily quick, try the double shampoo hack. It tends to work pretty well. But then after you have totally, you know, washed your hair, you want to make sure that you're using really good leave-in products. That's what's going to keep your hair feeling as good throughout the, you know, the week or how many days you use in between washes, just to kind of keep it feeling good. So I always recommend doing a leave-in conditioner. If your hair is like mine and it tends to get a little frizzy or fuzzy, I always like to use some type of cream, something that's really going to help tame that. Also, a good oil is going to be a total game changer. So you also want to make sure when, like, obviously for her this is not going to matter too much, but good food for thought. So there's a few different oils that I like. If you are blonde, and especially if you do not like having warmth to your hair, you want to make sure you are choosing a clear oil. If you are a brunette or you like having warmth to your hair, you can totally choose an oil that has a little bit more warmth to it. Not to say that that's going to necessarily make your hair warm per se, but if you are very, very blonde, over time that can make your blonde a little bit more brassy. So you want to be mindful of that. Also, you want to make sure that if you're using a leave-in conditioner, that it has a heat protectant built into it. If it has a heat protectant built in, you are protected until you wash your hair again. And so you want to make sure that that's always built in. Most leave-in conditioners will have that built in, but always double check. Also, you want to be mindful of, if you can oil your hair once a day is fabulous. If you can do it morning and night, even better. But I always like to moisturize just right through the ends. That is going to keep the extensions ends feeling so nice for so long. So that's a really wonderful thing to do. So, but all the products that I like use on my clients and that I recommend, I do have here in case anyone needs any of them. So just know that everything is always on hand if you need it. For my blonde girls that like to purple shampoo their hair, a few things you need to be mindful of. Extensions, when they are brand spanking new, they do take purple shampoo super well. So they don't need to really often be purple shampooed at all, or if they do, it's super quick. So honestly, what you might need to do is just purple shampoo like the hair above your extensions and kind of leave your extensions be, especially while they're brand new. They will just soak it up very quickly. Once they've been worn for a while and kind of the sealant has kind of worn off of those, you can purple shampoo them. The tops of them might take a touch purple if they're blonde all the way up. That is totally normal. You can normally fix that with, like, when we tone your hair, or doing a round of clarifying shampoo typically helps that. But you want to be mindful of purple shampoo, not to over purple shampoo, because it can dry out your hair, it can dry out your extensions. So really only when you feel needed. But if you're someone who you wash your hair once a week, maybe only doing it once a week or once every other week tends to work well. So I do really like the Unite purple shampoo. I like it because it's not overly drying, which is wonderful. It smells really good too, which is always a bonus. Also, when you are not washing your hair when you're showering, I find that it helps keep my style a lot more if I actually wear a shower cap. I just throw my hair up, I look like a really cute old lady. You just throw your hair up and put a shower cap on. That's gonna help hold your style more, because it's gonna kind of reduce the steam and the heat from the shower from kind of loosening your style. So that's a really great way to kind of allow yourself to go longer between washes with the extensions. Use a shower cap. If you are going in and you are going to be round brushing your hair or just blow drying in general, I would rough dry your hair till it's about 85% dry, then introduce your round brush and you can smooth things out that way. Our hair and extensions, they are the most fragile when they're wet, so the more you can kind of get them dry before you introduce the brush, the quicker the process will take you. Also, then you're not going to be putting as much tension on your hair, which is always nice. With your blow dryer, the way that I like to smooth things out is I always rough dry everything on the medium setting on high speed, medium heat. But then once I'm actually going in with my round brush, I like to turn that up to hot heat. That's gonna smooth out all the the frizzies, the fuzzies, and just kind of get like the textures matching a lot better. So that's what I like to do. My personal favorite round brushes to use in general, but also on extensions, they are the Olivia Garden, their Nano Thermic Power Grip. I love these. They get them very smooth. They also come with a little sectioning thing like that, so it's easy to kind of section off your pieces. One thing you can also do too, if you don't really like using a round brush, you could totally just use a normal brush and just follow that with your blow dryer. I always do find it's best to use a blow dryer that has, let me show you, a concentrator to it. It's my little pointed thing on the end. That's going to blow the heat directly where you want it, so it's going to get your hair a lot smoother than if you didn't have this. As far as maintenance in the salon goes, move-ups are every 6 to 8 weeks for the hand-tied sew-ins as well as tape-ins. With K-tips, they are every like 12 to 16 weeks. So that's also kind of a nice way to see if, you know, what kind of fits your lifestyle more. With the hand-tied sewn-in hair, it typically lasts, I would say most of my people, about a year. If you're a little bit rougher on your hair, normally around the 9-month range. But I also have a lot of girls that they take immaculate care of their hair and they have got it to last like a year and a half to 2 years. So totally depends on how you take care of it at home, kind of how long it'll last, but typically about a year is pretty standard. With tape-ins, tape-in hair is not as high of quality as these are. So typically we can get about 6 to 7 months out of them, and then they typically need to be replaced. Tape-ins are less expensive than hand-tied hair is initially, but since you do have to replace them, you know, in the 6-7 month range instead of at a year, it ends up being about the same. So good food for thought as well. With K-tips, I only do frontals just to kind of fill in gaps. Those are a great thing to do, especially if you want more fullness than like your sewn-in ones provide. You can always do K-tips through the front, or if you kind of have like a hardcore mullet or disconnect, it's nice to use K-tips through those. K-tips, every time we do move them up, we do have to remove the previous glue bond, which is about a 1/2 inch. And since those have to be moved up every 12 to 16 weeks, your hair's grown about, honestly, about 1 inch to 1.5 inches at that point. So after we've cut off the glue bond and moved those up, you do lose about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. So if you're fine with that, totally great. I feel like you can typically get like 1 reuse out of those. But if you're kind of wanting to keep the exact same length every time, you do need to kind of get new pieces each time. But when I've priced out like K-tip frontals, when you're buying new hair each time versus buying like 1 row of hand-tied extensions, and if you're doing this for like a year, it honestly ends up 6s, because yes, you're spending a little bit more at your appointment with like the K-tip frontals, but since you're only having to do them every like 3 to 4 months, it ends up being about the same. So food for thought as well on those. Also, when you're going to bed, you want to make sure that you're sleeping with your hair in an appropriate way. With extensions, you don't want them just sitting there rubbing back and forth on your pillow all the time. So you want to make sure that for when you're using a silk pillowcase, that's going to reduce frizz. That's also going to help reduce friction. So it's actually going to keep your hair holding its style a lot more, which is wonderful. So using a silk pillowcase, or you can use a silk bonnet in your hair to, you know, help also keep your style. Both work fabulous. I would avoid going to bed with wet hair if possible. Your hair and the extensions are most fragile when they're wet, so kind of the less you can do that, the better. And when you do go to sleep, it's best to wear your hair some form of up. Avoid going to bed with your hair all the way down, just because that can cause friction and matting, especially right here on your pillow. So wearing your hair in a braid, a pony, a bun. You can also use the heatless curls. Those things work fabulous on extensions. So anything of that, just pretty much avoiding wearing your hair down or wearing your hair wet to bed. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions, feel free to head over and DM me on Instagram. Also, I will leave a detailed list down below of all the products and tools I like to use.